What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Frank here, the Red Tire Guy. One of the major issues people have with Middle-earth Shadow of War is the microtransactions or loot boxes, which was announced during a live stream about a month ago. You have people sitting in one half saying, you know, they're gonna boycott this game because it has microtransactions and all sorts of loot boxes, while you have people on the other side saying you don't really need these, that the game is perfectly playable without this. Looking through a ton of gameplay footage at conventions and reading what journalists say, from what I can understand, most of them are saying that their gameplay was unaffected by the microtransactions. In other words, their progress didn't need these loot boxes. Now, even though this was from gameplay demos at different conventions, there isn't really a clear answer as to how much these microtransactions will affect Middle-earth Shadow of War because the game isn't out yet. For obvious reasons, Monolith Games and Warner Brothers isn't directly going to state how much this will affect the final game, but recently in an interview, Tom Phillips from Eurogamer sat down with Shadow of War's design director Bob Roberts at EGX 2017 to discuss this heated issue. Even though he asked a number of questions, and I'd recommend you guys head on over to that article and you can find the link in the description below, I want to focus on three specific questions that he asked Bob Roberts. Tom Phillips asked, quote, "What can you say to reassure the fans who will never buy a loot box that Shadow of War has still been balanced with them in mind?" End quote. Bob Roberts replied by saying, quote, "We're working our tails off to make this massive game, and as a designer, the design director, I focus on balancing it. We do a ton of playtesting and make sure it is tuned to a setting where people can enjoy it. We kept all of the loot boxes and economy of real world money turned off in playtesting, so we know we are balancing around an experience which is rewarding without any of that stuff." End quote. Now, what is important to note from this answer is the fact that they are testing the game without any of the loot boxes, which does make me feel a little bit more comfortable about the whole microtransaction system, because basically they are making sure that you can play the game without buying any of the microtransactions. The second question I'm going to focus on, Tom Phillips went on to ask, quote, "Because some people think you guys have ulterior motives, that you're waiting for a tough bit to pop up an on-screen prompt saying, 'Hey, have you seen what we're selling?'" End quote. Bob Roberts replied by saying, quote, "No, absolutely not. 100% not. It is important to clarify this as there were a couple of misconceptions. First, the concern about balancing. Hopefully when this is out there and people are able to talk about their experiences, then the balancing question will be answered, hopefully by people you trust to play through it and see that." End quote. Now, I will definitely be playing through Middle-earth Shadow of War with and without the microtransactions, buying a couple of loot boxes, seeing how that will affect my overall experience versus buying no microtransactions. So be sure to check out for that video. Bob Roberts went on to say, quote, "The other big misconception was whether the game had to be online too, and it is important for people to understand that no, it's not required to be online to play the game, and it is a massive game where you can enjoy the full experience without putting any extra money on it." End quote. That is also another thing people ask me personally. They ask me if Middle-earth Shadow of War will need to have an always online connection, and clearly you can see here he says no, it does not. One final question that I just want to touch on is where Tom asked Bob, he says, quote, "Will you pay for loot boxes?" End quote. Now, Bob's answer is very interesting and I'll tell you just now why. He says, quote, "I personally probably will just let the system feed me the rewards as we've been balancing them. It's a weird question as a designer. I want to have the experience I think most people will have, so I can relate to what people are saying around balancing. I wouldn't want to shortcut anything and then have a skewed perspective on what people are saying around balancing in case we do need to go in and update anything later." End quote. So basically Bob is saying that he will not buy any microtransactions, that he will not buy any loot boxes, that he wants to experience the game as is. And that makes me question as to why put loot boxes in there in the first place if the game designer himself said that he will not be buying any loot boxes. Again, I urge all of you to read the full interview in the link in the description below, as there are a bunch of other questions that Bob touches on. However, it does feel that he's not directly answering the questions regarding microtransactions and the whole controversial issue surrounding this. Now, I'm pretty sure with the publisher Warner Brothers standing behind him, he has to avoid certain questions, but at least it is good to know that the game is being tested without the loot box system enabled, so they are making sure that the game is balanced balanced out correctly. Again, as I said earlier, I will play through the game with loot boxes and without it, buying a bunch of loot boxes and opening them, seeing how it affects my gameplay, basically so that you don't have to, and to see if the loot boxes are worth buying. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think of this whole interview? Let me know in the comment sections below, and don't forget I'm giving away a copy of Middle-earth Shadow of War on PC, PS4 or Xbox One, so be sure to check the end of this video to find out how. For more on Shadow of War, click that subscribe button. If you like this video, then give me a thumbs up. If you dislike it, give me a thumbs down, but please tell me why so I can improve my videos. My name is Frank, I'm the Red Star Guy, and frankly, thank you for watching. Catch you guys in the next video.